Hello and welcome back. My name is Leighellen and this is Mama Leighellen's Book Nook. Hey friends! Today I want to talk about my 5 favorite books that I read in February. February was an awesome reading month because there was a little holiday in there where we went away to ski for 4 days. It's a snowy month, so there's plenty of hunkered down reading days. And so I read about 30 books, and these are the ones that I liked the most. Okay, first up we have the Flatshare. This is not a new book, but February had a lot of reading challenges that had to do with romance and rom-com, and I do not read those. So I asked some of my friends what they recommended, and this came up as a recommendation a lot. And I gotta tell you, it was super cute, so totally worth it. In this story, the Flatshare, it's about these people that, to save money, lease the same apartment, but they have opposing schedules. So he works nights and she works days, so they never actually meet. And so the way that they communicate is by these little sticky notes. So they start leaving each other sticky notes, and their interactions are just adorable. Because inevitably what ends up happening is they end up talking about maybe music or books, and they end up having deeper conversations just on these little sticky notes. And like, for example, she will cook something and then leave him a note saying, hey, you know, you can have the leftovers. And then he'll be like, oh my gosh, you're like the best cook. This is my favorite thing. And it's just a really adorable, it was adorable. I absolutely loved it. I read it really quickly. Doesn't seem like it's a premise that would work, but it totally does. So I highly recommend this for a little rom-com fun in your life. The next book that was my favorite in February is Beauty Among Ruins. Now, this is a historical fiction book that follows this young socialite from America whose parents just get like fed up with her frivolous ways, ship her off to England, and then war breaks out. So it's set in 1914. She ends up at this manor in Scotland volunteering as a nurse to help the soldiers. And she is not a nurse, but she has a big heart. And so she just wants to try to encourage these soldiers and make them feel better and give them someone to talk to. Well, meanwhile, the owner of the manor is just this grumpy guy, and they kind of butt heads. But of course, there's chemistry when they butt heads, and you know, she livens him up a bit and he makes her think. Eventually things start happening across the manor where like a man goes missing, a barn gets on fire, certain things happen, and so she tries to help him figure out what's going on. She also tries to host some events, and I guess he has stopped doing fun things like that. And so it's, I would say, an enemies to lovers trope, and beautiful scenery, fun chemistry. I love the setting and the characters, so this one ended up top on my list. Another top book for me was this super fun one, The Gilded Ones. This is a YA fantasy book, and it's about this village where all the girls, when they turn 13, have to be tested. They cut them open. If they bleed red, they're considered pure, and if they bleed gold, they're basically like, you know, deemed a witch and murdered. So this gal ends up, of course, bleeding gold, and they go to kill her, and she has enough magic in her that she won't die. They kill her like multiple times, and so she ends up being rescued by this strange woman and sent to the emperor's castle, and finds out that he is building this like warrior group of women who have all been cast aside because they all have this magic power. So it is such a cool world that they build in here, and just a neat magic system, unique magic system, and obviously all the girl power. These girls rise up and become strong, band together. A lot of great themes of friendship in this, but of course there's also a twist. So you come to find out that what they're being trained for, and they're supposedly being trained to protect the villages, protect the empire, but this lead gal starts to feel more connected to the creatures that she is supposed to attack, to protect the village from them. And so there's a little twist about how, I can't tell you because you don't want to know that, but it all comes together at the end. So a lot of action, a lot of war, But cool friendships and bonding and a coming of age story at the end of it. It's really a coming of age story. So I really enjoyed this one. Next up, that made the top of my list for February, was The Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson. This is historical fiction set in Civil War era. It is about a woman who is a slave, but she's actually the child of, her mother was a slave and the father is the plantation owner. So she grows up on this plantation with some extra ability, extra freedom. So even though she's still a slave, because she's the master's child, she's allowed to like learn to play the piano, she learns to read. Well, the master's wife doesn't like that, and eventually she gets sent away, and this girl gets sold to a new owner who makes her his yellow wife. So this is a term that I had not heard before, but it is a term where you master marries his slave, but she's someone who could pass as white. So she's light enough skinned, but she still obviously has slave roots. So you end up with this story where this poor woman is just, she goes from one type of slavery where she is working on a plantation to another type of slavery where she's now married to a man that she did not get to choose and forced to do and endure things that are unimaginable. One of those things is she actually prepares the slaves to be sold. And so she dresses them and washes them, and these are her people. So it's gut-wrenching. She is there to witness scenes where slaves are beaten, and it's really about the complexities of her station and the balance of really not belonging in either world. She's not white, she doesn't fit in that world, but then obviously on the same page in life as her black counterparts who are fully slaves. So again, she lives with some freedoms, like she gets food, she gets clothes, but she's just as much imprisoned in her life. And so eventually she goes on to have children, and it's about her quest to try to get them a better life and earn their freedom. So it is short for historical fiction, and heartbreaking that in this short of a story she could just crush your soul. I will say that, I wish it was longer. For me, I would have liked more at the end. I would have liked more of the story of the man that she has a child with. I would have liked more of story from what happened to her children. But it was very well done, very easy read, and a quick read, I should say. It's not easy. You will cry. You'll cry a lot in this book. But I highly recommend this for my historical fiction fans and for an own voice author. And last but certainly not least is The Four Winds. Kristen Hanna. I mean, I could devote an entire video to Kristen Hanna. This book was one of my choices for my Momma Leighellen's book club pick in February. So we read this as a group. We got to break it down, talk about it. It is set during the Great Depression and starts off during this event called the Dust Bowl, which I did not know much about. Essentially, Midwest, you're on these farms, and there was these a huge drought and then a dust storm. And so that is part of why so many people fled that area and went to California to try to find new jobs and new farming opportunities. You meet the protagonist early on when she's just a young girl, and she's been through a lot of abuses. She was sick as a child, and so her parents just kind of cast her off and have no plans for her, but she ends up meeting a boy. They end up getting married. She has kids. Then it skips forward. So there's a gap. I would say that's one of my only issues with this book as well is the gap years. And you don't really find out about really her pregnancy or childbirth times. And for me, that was like the most transformative time in my life. So it skips ahead. And the Depression rages on as the farms are not able to produce, as she's not able to feed her children. She has to make this decision of whether to stay and endure or move on. And a lot of people keep moving from her area. And so eventually she takes her children and leaves and goes to California. So the first half of the book is her as a child and then early marriage. And then the second half of the book is her with her children out in California trying to start over. and it's heartbreaking. I mean, this is, oh, Kristen Hanna, I mean, she just gets you anyways, but this book is just sad, y'all. It's a sad book. It's a book that just one hardship after another, right? Like, so first she has this thing happen to her when she's a child and she's sick, then she has this thing happen and she's married, and then something happens with her husband. I don't want to spoil it. And then, you know, now she's impoverished with her children in California. So it's just one after the other hardships. Once she's in California, she tries to start over, but she's a no one, and she ends up having to do labor on these farms and is paid like nothing and is barely able to feed her children. They are living in a tent by the river. So it is, it's eye-opening, it's heartbreaking, and yet beautiful, because at the core of this book is about motherly love. Like, I felt like this was really all about like being a mom and what you give up as a mother and what you choose to focus on as a mother and the lengths you'll go to for your children as a mother. So this one, while not hopeful, is beautiful. And, you know, Kristen Hanna's writing is fantastic. So if you like historical fiction and you like to have your soul crushed, you should read this book. I do recommend reading it as a group also. And frankly, really, Yellow Wife also. I think these both make great book club reads, because there's so much discussion that can be had about some of the choices that are made in the books and some of the history that's involved. So friends, those are my 5 favorite books from February. I hope you enjoyed them. You can shop my stack below if you want to pick any of these up. You can also head to my blog or Goodreads to read my full reviews. And I think that's it. I will have a new book mail video here in 2 days, and then we will do another book chat with Leighellen at the end of the week. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for stopping by. As always, subscribe and come back and chat books with me. Let me know below if you read any of these or if you had a different favorite last month. Thanks. I hope you'll come back and join me next time. Take care and have a great week.